welcome to Chase Your Star. I am your host, Monica Carter Tagore. Now is the time to go for something more than the tired, ordinary reality so many people settle for. Now is the time to chase your star and live your bigger, better, bolder life where you live and work according to the purpose, passion, and calling driving you. Each week, join me as I share information, inspiration, and insight to help you do more with your life and the work you do. We will cover life strategy, personal development, and entrepreneurship, all wrapped around the idea of your story. You see, sharing your story is an important part of chasing your star, as your story holds within it lessons, blessings, messages, and big ideas that help you do something great for yourself and do something great in the world. Ready to chase your star? Let's do it. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Chase Your Star. I am Monica Carter Tagore, and I am so happy you've joined me today. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that is soul deep. Soul, S-O-U-L, that is soul deep. It's about your heart. The topic I want to talk to you about today is your why. Why do you do the work you do? Why did you choose this particular profession? Why did you choose this particular way of helping or serving? Why did you choose this particular vocation? Why? I want to talk to you about your why because I believe it is so important, and it may not be something you're focused on right now. So I want to draw it to your attention as I help you build up the confidence, build up the skills, build up the tools and the mentality you need to be able to chase your star, to be able to follow your purpose or your passion or your calling, whatever it is that you feel driven to do from the inside. And so I bring your attention to your why. I bring your attention to your why because so many of us never consider our why. There are so many people who sleepwalk through their lives, who coast through their lives, simply going to work day in and day out, doing the same thing day in and day out, making the same decisions day in and day out, producing likely the same results day in and day out, never really examining why they're doing what they're doing. And so that's why today's topic is so important. It gets to the heart of the matter. It gets to your soul. Why are you doing this work? Your why is so important. And when you work according to your why, when you examine your work and your life according to your why, and you figure out what that why is, it can be transformative. It can actually help you next level your life and your work when you get in touch with the why of what you're doing. And that is because your why provides the reason for what you do. Your why provides the meaning to what you do. Your why helps you figure out what you do and why that matters. Your why. Why do you do this work? I can tell you, when I left journalism several years ago, or many, many years ago actually, when you think about it, when I left journalism, my why was so important to me. My why was the reason I was able to and willing to trade in a seemingly secure job for the unknown risk of entrepreneurship. My why was the reason I was willing to endure the hardships and the sacrifices and the struggles of those early years. My why was the reason I was willing to give up on this high-flying career. You see, at the time that I left journalism, I was on this leadership track. The editors had decided that I should be promoted and elevated to be an editor, and that I should be enrolled in leadership training, and I was on the trajectory to one day possibly be a top editor of a newspaper somewhere. So things were looking really good when I left. I was on that path. I was on a very promising path, but that path didn't fit my why. My why engulfed and encompassed something outside of that particular path. And so while I appreciate the fact that my editors had confidence in me and they saw promise in me, I appreciated my why more. And so I left. I threw all that away, so to speak. I traded all that in for building my own business, for doing my own thing. You see, my why for starting and running my own business at that time when I first left the newspaper was about the fact that I truly believed that life had placed me here to tell stories, to use my words to touch lives in some way. And so I believed that I needed to be able to share and tell other types of stories than those stories that I was telling at the newspaper. And so my why for running my own writing business was about being able to tell the stories I wanted to tell, being able to use my words in the way I wanted to use my words to be able to touch lives in the way I believed I could touch them. And so my why helped push me forward, helped push me out of that comfortable job into the uncomfortable arena of entrepreneurship. And I am so glad I followed my why. It wasn't always easy. In fact, there were times when it was quite difficult, times when I could have given up, times when I could have given in, times when I could have even possibly gone back to the newspaper. In fact, when I turned in my letter of resignation, my editor took me to lunch to see if there was something more they could do to keep me there, if maybe there was something else that I wanted to do within the newspaper that I could do that, and so I wouldn't have to leave. They even offered me a sabbatical. They asked me, would you just like to take a leave of absence? Would you like to take a sabbatical or something like that? Would you just like to just go take a break for a while, test out what you think you want to do over there, and then come back? They offered me that, and I appreciate it so much, but my why compelled me to turn all that down. My why compelled me to say, thank you, but I'm going to go over here because this is where I feel called to go. I felt called to go and to start and run this writing business where I could write the books I wanted to write and do the projects I wanted to do and share the words I wanted to share. And so my why helped me to turn all that down. And as 1 year turned into 2 years and 2 years turned into 3 years and I was struggling and straining, trying to figure out this whole idea of entrepreneurship and self-employment, trying to figure out how is it that you turn a gift, a talent into a viable business. As I struggled there in those early years, my why had to push me forward. My why had to be the thing to help me keep going when I wasn't making the money I wanted to make, when I wasn't making the impact I felt I could make, when sometimes I just wasn't even getting anywhere, or so it felt at different times. And so my why had to compel me. My why had to push me, and it did. And today, I have a business that is more than 14 years old, that has worked with clients around the world, not just in the United States, a business that has allowed me to make an impact, has allowed me to touch lives. In fact, it's a business where my husband joined and we work together each and every day now. It's a business I absolutely love, but it would not have come to be, and it certainly would not have continued if my why had not been strong enough, especially when the country went through that economic downturn of a few years ago and so many businesses were struggling, so many businesses, including mine. We lost so much, and still we were able to keep on. Still we were able to carry on, and somehow we were able to hold on until we were able to grow again after all that. My why compelled me. So I ask you, what is your why? What is the why that pushes you forward? What is the why that gives you reason for the work you do? Why are you a coach? Why are you a consultant? Why are you a teacher? Why are you an engineer? Why are you a plumber? Why are you a business owner? Why are you a designer? Why are you a singer? Why are you doing whatever work it is that you're doing now? Why? And it's got to be more than simply about a paycheck. It's got to be about more than simply the benefits you earned from doing that type of work. While a nice paycheck is really good and benefits are definitely cool, your why has to expand and extend beyond that. Because once you get to a certain point, once you earn a certain bit of money or have certain details of daily life taken care of, your why must be stronger than the material possessions you can earn or receive. Your why must be stronger than the income you can earn. Your why must be something that is soul deep. What speaks to your soul? Why are you doing this work? So I want you to pause for just a couple of seconds and to think about your why. Why do you do the work you do? Why? So what did you come up with? Did you come up with a compelling reason for why you are doing this work? Did you come up with a soul's desire that you are fulfilling? Your why is there. If you were not able to figure out that why in those few seconds, then I challenge you over the next week to examine your motivation, examine the work you're doing, examine your soul and your heart to come up with your why. Because you must have a why for the work you're doing. And that is because there are many types of work you could be doing. And if the work you're doing right now does not speak to your soul, and if you cannot find a compelling why for that work you're doing, then it's quite possible you're doing the wrong work. You may not be investing your time and your effort and your energy and your talent in the place where life truly has for you. Because you see, life brings us all here for a reason. You are not here by mistake, mishap, or accident. You are here at this particular point in time for a reason, for a purpose. And life wants you to be able to work within that purpose, work within that passion, work within that calling. And the start to doing that is figuring out your why. Why do you do what you do? Or why do you plan to do some future work? What work do you need to do because of your internal why? What work do you need to do because of the reasons that are driving you? Again, remember I said your why gives meaning to what you do. Your why shows you why what you do matters. Your why is the reason for what you do. So take the time, if you were not able to figure out that why in those few seconds, take the time of this next week to truly examine yourself and to figure out why it is you do the work you do. And if you find out that you are doing work that does not answer a compelling why, then you need to figure out what kind of work you can do that will respond to a why, that will correspond to a why. You need to figure out the work that your soul wants you to do. I was at the grocery store a few days ago, and I got in the line of a guy, and I immediately knew he was a new person there. I knew he was a new cashier. He was very articulate. He was very deliberate. He took pride in the work he was doing, and that is different from many of the other cashiers at that store. And so as he rang me up, or after he rang me up, he told me, he said, I bagged your items really nicely. And I said, well, thank you. And again, he was taking pride in that. And as I walked away and I thought about that exchange later on, I wondered if he had found his why. I wondered if his why compelled him to stand up a little taller. I wondered if his why compelled him to speak to each person a little bit more kindly than most of the other cashiers. I wondered if his why gave him a certain twinkle in his eye. You see, he was a man working as if he had figured out a why. And while his job was that of a cashier, and some people may take that as not a very important job or not a job that requires a why, I disagree. You see, I believe any lawful and good and positive job can be the answer to a compelling why. It's not about how lofty the title is, but it's about how meaningful the work is. And it's quite possible that that man working as a cashier there had attached significant meaning to his work. Maybe he had figured out his why, and maybe that why was to bring light to those he encountered. And if that was his why, if his why was about bringing light to others, if it was about making others feel better in their day, if it was about somehow making others have a better day than they had before they encountered him, then it's possible he was in the perfect place to exercise that why. Because imagine how many people he could impact over the course of a day as a cashier working in this large grocery store. Many people probably came through his aisle. And if he was able to somehow lend them a smile, if he was somehow able to lend them a kind word, if he was somehow able to encourage them as they went through his line, wow, that's incredible. That's a wonderful way to be able to spread light, to be able to make their lives better, to be able to help them have a better day, all because of figuring out his why. So what about you? What why can you attach to the work you're doing? Again, the work you're doing is not about the loftiness of the title, but about the meaning you apply to the work you're doing. So whether you are working in a job where you feel that it doesn't have a lofty title, or you are a corporate CEO of a large multinational, you still need to figure out your why. And you need to make sure that the work that you are doing is aligned with your why. The work you are doing needs to be something that allows you to be able to live out that why. And if you find that you cannot attach your why to the work you're doing, that the work you're doing simply is not pushing you forward on living out your why, and it's not helping you to apply meaning, then you've got to figure something else out. You can't do meaningless work. You cannot, on a sustained basis, do work where you don't have a why to it. If you do that, you'll be like so many other people and simply be a zombie in your own life. You'll sleepwalk through your life. You'll coast through your life, wishing, wanting, hoping for something different, but not getting it. Your work needs to provide some kind of meaning to you. And your work needs to be an outlet for where you can go out and do something related to your purpose or your passion or your calling. We all are here for a purpose. You know, I've said this before in this podcast. We are here for a reason. We're not here by accident. And it's our job to figure out what that purpose is as we go through life so that we can work and live according to that. And over the course of our lives, we have passions that may point us to purpose, and we have callings that may point us to purpose. Our callings can change over the course of our lives. And indeed, my callings have changed over the course of my life. You see, your calling is about something you feel compelled to do at a particular point in time. For instance, I told you earlier when I left my newspaper job, my big why at that time was about telling the stories I wanted to tell, writing the books I wanted to write. And the way that manifested for me at that time was about yielding to a call to write novels. So I was a novelist. And I enjoyed it. I would travel the country. I did lots of speaking engagements. I did lots of book events. I shared my books with anybody who wanted to read them, wanted to hear about them. It was a great time. But my calling eventually moved to other things. And at some point, maybe I will get back to novels, but my point here is that your calling can change as you go through life. And so my calling moved from wanting simply to tell the stories I wanted to tell to something bigger. My calling moved to wanting to touch lives in a significant way, far beyond what I could do individually. I wanted to help other people to touch other lives as well, so that my effort and my impact could be multiplied. And what that manifested into is the business I have today. I work with lots of small business owners, leaders, professionals, and other people in our Author Grow program. And in Author Grow, I help people who have knowledge and wisdom and expertise to write their books. I help people to share their stories in a way that can help other people, in a way to where other people can grow and benefit from reading those stories. And so my calling, as I said, moved from me simply wanting to share the stories I wanted to share and to write the books I wanted to write, to a calling of wanting to multiply my impact by helping other people to share their stories, so that as they reached more people and helped more people, in some way, I felt that I was reaching and helping more people. So my impact could be multiplied. I could reach not only the people I could reach through the books I wrote, but I could also reach people through the books I helped my clients write. And that's where my purpose is, my calling has led me today, to help other people to be able to share their stories. That is my big why right now. My big why is so much bigger than my original why, which was simply to use my words to write the stories I wanted to write. It was about, really, at those early years of my business, my why was about me, me, me. And that served me well for a while. But eventually, as I gained success in sharing my words and writing my books and doing those things, my why had to expand. And my why did expand to something beyond me. My why expanded to where I wanted to use my writing ability, use my gifts that God has given me, use my skills, use my expertise to be able to help other people to make the impact they wanted to make. And in so doing, I was growing my impact. And so don't be afraid if your why seems to evolve over time. The core of the why is still there, but you may begin to focus it more. And it may come to a point to where it's not just about you and your desires. It's about the impact you want to make. It's about the difference you want to make. It's about the lives you want to touch. Remember, your why is about meaning. Your why is about showing what matters of the work you're doing. Your why is about the significance of what you're doing, which is why there are no small jobs. As long as the work or the business you're doing is legal, is ethical, and it's doing something good, it can be attached to a powerful why. Again, even if the role itself doesn't seem all that significant to begin with. That's why that man that I was just telling you about, that cashier, that's why he can work with such pride and such enthusiasm and such excitement as a cashier, because quite possibly he's attached a big why to the work he does. He might see that he's doing life-changing work. He is helping people have a better day. He is helping people see hope where maybe they didn't have any hope before, because you never know what your smile can do for someone else in a day. You never know what your kind word can do for someone else in a day. You never know what your encouragement can do for someone else in a day. And if he has that same thought process that I just shared, then it's quite possible that he is helping someone to make it through the day. He's helping someone to see hope where they just didn't see hope before. He's helping someone to feel as if there's someone else on this earth who cares about them because he lent them a smile. That's the power of a why. And so I want you to really think about your why. I want you to see if the work you're doing reflects that why and is allowing you to be able to live out that why. And if it is not, then I truly want you to take that next step and examine what work can and should you be doing to live out your why, to respond to that soul deep urging that's pushing you from within? You do have a why. Now, whether you recognize it or not, it's there. And this podcast is about helping you just to become aware of the why, so that you can figure out what it is and you can do the work that lets you live out that why. You can do the work that pushes you forward. You can do the work that speaks to your soul. You can do the work that allows you to truly go out there and make your impact, make your difference, to truly touch the lives you're meant to touch, because there are lives you're meant to touch. And if you're not working according to your why, it's possible you're not touching the lives you need to touch. It's possible you're leaving behind some people who really need to hear from you. So examine your why. And of course, if your why involves touching more lives, if your why involves making a greater impact, and that means writing a book related to your work, then of course I'd love to help you in the Author Grow program. You can check it out at authorgrow.com. But if your why does not involve a book, that's quite all right. Maybe it doesn't. Whatever it is, I want you to examine your why and to make sure that you're working within that why. Why do you do the work you do? And if you can't find a why beyond money and beyond benefits and beyond material possessions related to the work you're doing right now, then you've got some homework. It's your job to figure out what work can and should you be doing to fulfill your why. Your why can be as individual and as personal as you. Maybe your why is about touching lives through the use of your story, by sharing your story so that other people who have experienced similar things that you've experienced, they too can overcome. Or your why may be about helping someone else get from a point of desperation where you may have been before, but you figured out how to overcome it, and so now you can help them. Your why may be about helping people realize that there is life after some traumatic experience. There is life after a challenging time. There is life after a terrible disease, or there is life after a bankruptcy, or there is life after an embarrassing failure. Your why may be about helping and encouraging and inspiring other people so that they know that life is possible after any of those things. They know why? Because you tell them, you show them, because you experienced those things. You went through that hardship, and somehow you came out of it better in some way. And because you came out of it better, you can help them come out of it better. Maybe that's your why. Maybe your why is related to helping other people to gain the skills they need to improve their lives. Maybe the work that you're doing now has taught you some very valuable skills, and now you can teach other people those skills so that they too can have a better life, so that they too can live a life of hope and joy and happiness and excitement and not just desperation. Maybe your why is about doing something the world has never seen before. Maybe your why is about changing the world in some way. Maybe your work has to reflect that. As the world mourns the recent passing of Muhammad Ali, I am reminded that he worked according to a why that allowed him to change the world. He was able to speak in a way and share his values in a way to where other people had to stand up and take notice. It was not easy for him when he chose to speak out against certain things that were going on in our country politically, speak out against a war even. In fact, his boxing license was revoked. His title was stripped from him. He was threatened with being put behind bars. And yet, his why was stronger than the fear related to any of those things. And so he stood tall according to his values. And as a result, our world changed in some way. Athletes were able to see that they could speak out in a different way, and regular everyday people were able to see that there is more to life than war. There's more to life than negativity. There's more to life than some of the things that we may have been thinking of before. He talked peace, and he talked acceptance, and he talked tolerance of others, embracing of others. And so that is something that actually changed the world. Changed the world because of his why. So your why may be about changing the world. Your why may be about standing up for what you believe in and doing work related to that. Your why may be about doing something that seems scary or risky at first, but you believe it's the right thing to do. And because you believe it's the right thing to do, you press on and you let that guide your life and you let that guide your work. That why. Your why is pretty significant. Your why is pretty compelling. So please take the time to examine your why. You may find a little why, you may find a big why. Even if you find a little why to begin with, that's fine. Grasp onto that why. And as you go forward in your life, your why may become, as I said, more defined, and it may have an even deeper meaning so that it grows and grows and grows. But don't miss out on your why. Don't ignore your why. Don't ignore the call I'm making here for you right now to find your why. Because if you're coasting through life right now, if you're sleepwalking through your life right now, if you're going to work just to get a paycheck, you're missing out on your why. And you're missing out on the significance and the impact you can have. I don't want you to miss out on your significance. I don't want you to miss out on your impacts. I want you to live and work according to your why so that you can touch the lives you're meant to touch, you can make the difference you're meant to make, and you can have the impact I know you're here to make. Examine that why this week, and I'll see you next week. And there you have it. This week's information, inspiration, and insight to help you live a bigger, better, bolder life, doing what you feel purposed, passionate, and called to do. If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and subscribe. And while you're there, please leave a review. I'd really appreciate it. And one other thing, if you would like to get on the inside track and be a part of my inner community, then please go visit my website at monicacartertagore.com/star-newsletter. Join the newsletter so that you can get all of my free resources, news, and updates first, immediately, before others get it. I'd love to have you in my community. So visit the website, monicacartertagore.com/star-newsletter.